Trump is dressed up as a garbage man and was videoed in a garbage truck, and then gave a speech in an outfit, they have to cover it because obviously they're going to video that, and then they have to explain why he's doing it. So it's a brilliant move on Trump's part. And now they're having to say, well, this is because President Biden called half of the country garbage. And it really does step on her final message.
I'm Andrew Neil. This is Times Radio, live from New York City. Less than a week till Election Day here in America, and nothing is moving the polls very much. Kamala Harris has a narrow national lead in the poll of polls, far from enough to be sure of victory, and retains leads in swing states Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada. She's also ahead in Pennsylvania, the swing state with the most electoral college votes, but her lead has shrunk in the last week, well within the margin of error. Donald Trump leads in Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. The last gaffes of both campaigns have been dominated by their gaffes. Team Trump were thrown off course by a warm-up speaker at Sunday night's rally, dissing Puerto Rico as, quote, garbage. They were still trying to distance themselves from that when President Biden, helpfully or unhelpfully, stepped in, seeming to describe Trump's supporters as garbage, thereby overshadowing Harris's final pitches for voters. Whether any of this matters is moot. Almost 60 million Americans have already voted. It's a huge number, almost the population of the United Kingdom. We had hoped to be joined by Bob Wiener. He's a Democratic strategist. We haven't yet got a hold of him, though we spoke to him earlier. But we have got Republican donor Hal Lambert, who joins me. He served on Donald Trump's Inaugural Committee. Let's start with the garbage row, Hal. It looks like the president's come to the Republican rescue.
Yeah, he really did. And you know, the legacy media has tried not to cover it, but now that Trump is dressed up as a garbage man and was videoed in a garbage truck, and then gave a speech in an outfit, they have to cover it because obviously they're going to video that, and then they have to explain why he's doing it. So it's a brilliant move on Trump's part. And now they're having to say, well, this is because President Biden called half of the country garbage. And it really does step on her final message. And I'd have to disagree with you on what you said earlier. Trump is leading in all the swing states. On the real clear average politics, he's leading in these swing states. He is going to win the popular vote, I predict. In fact, he's today in New Mexico, which is an odd place to be, right? Why would you be in New Mexico? It's not a swing state. It's likely to go Democrat. But I think he's trying to drum up a little bit more percentage vote in some of these states. He was in New York because he's going after the popular vote.
I often do, but in this case, I wasn't using the real clear averages, and you're quite right on that. I was using the very latest polls, which are still very much within the margin of error, and they do go up and down, and the averages, as you say. But the latest polls may be more accurate. We just don't know on this. I suppose, and of course, Mr. Biden saying it depends where you put the apostrophe. He wasn't talking about supporters plural. He was talking about supporters apostrophe, referring to the so-called comedian. But I think we can let that go. It seems to me that this kind of mistake is one reason why Team Harris hasn't really wanted the president to campaign for her.
Well, you've got a bad candidate in Kamala Harris, I would say, and then you have the current president who clearly is not able to communicate the way he used to. And he does make these kinds of mistakes. He's done it. That's why they replaced him. I mean, he couldn't campaign properly. And so, yeah, it's really tough on them. They can't have him out there. And for the first time, actually, Kamala Harris is distancing herself from the current president. She's done it on this issue. She hasn't done that until this point. So it really shows you, in my opinion, how desperate her campaign is. I think there is desperation out there. And it's showing because they put Biden out there, and literally the first thing he does is step in it and take the narrative that the comedian called Puerto Rico a garbage place. By the way, which was a joke, and it had to do with, I didn't even know this, but it had to do with the fact that they do actually have a garbage problem in Puerto Rico. They've got a lot of piles of trash that they don't know what to do with. That was what it was. It was a joke that didn't go over well. But this is the current president calling half the country garbage, and that's a problem.
Well, it wasn't much of a joke, but let's move on from that. We know that 60 million have already voted. It's a huge number. Must be a record for those voting early. Do we have any way of knowing how they voted? I mean, people haven't been doing exit polls on the 60 million, have they?
Well, no, but we do know. For instance, in North Carolina, at this point, this was a day or so ago that I saw this number, but it was put out. Republicans at this point in 2020 were behind about 300,000 votes, Democrat to Republican, because you can see who's voting as far as their party affiliation. In 2024, the Republicans are ahead about 30,000 votes in North Carolina. So it's almost a 400,000 vote swing from 2020, which is why you saw Kamala Harris pull out of North Carolina. So you can get a handle on where these things are. And then there's also, I've seen some data where you can look at kind of people that don't vote very often, people that vote often, that kind of thing. So there's the question of, hey, are Republicans simply pulling votes forward into early voting that voted late last time? Right. And there's some data to suggest that's not the case totally, that there is some voting of people that historically have not voted.
Well, all right, Hal, we've not got long to go before the election day itself. So give us the Republican optimism here. Give us where you're coming from. You're saying Mr. Trump will win the national vote?
I think he very well could. I'm predicting a couple of things. I think that we will know on election night, because I think Trump is going to be ahead enough that they're going to have to call it on election night. So I don't think this is going to go into 2 or 3 days later, which is some people are predicting, because Pennsylvania announced that they're not going to have a total count on election night. Arizona announced they're not going to have a total vote on election night. But I think we will have the numbers enough that they'll have to call enough states that I think President Trump will be announced the new president of the United States starting on election night. So I think that will happen. And then whether he wins the popular vote is going to be very close. It's possible.
And on the swing states, 7 swing states, which ones, in your view, will Mr. Trump win?
He'll win Georgia. He'll win North Carolina. He will win Arizona. He will win Nevada. He will win Pennsylvania and probably Michigan. I don't know that he'll win Wisconsin.
So the only one that you've got worried, well, you're a little uncertain about Michigan and you're not so sure about Wisconsin. Other than that, you think he wins the other 5?